welcome back to our BNI San Diego podcast. I'm really excited today because we're bringing back one of our original podcastees, special guest, Becky Isbel, a seasoned entrepreneur and devoted longtime BNI fan, BNI member, BNI everything. Uh, and you are in, is it Killeen?
Killeen, yep, Killeen,
Killeen,
Texas.
Texas, just outside of Austin. And you've got what, over 13, 14 plus years, not only in BNI, but you as a family, you guys
Yeah,
own some businesses as well, right? That
yeah.
entrepreneurial spirit.
It's hard to believe, but in July of this year, it'll be 15 years that we took the entrepreneurial leap and did it and haven't looked back since.
And it goes quick and it's so much, what an incredible adventure with
Yeah.
highs and lows and
Oh,
hopefully back to highs again.
yeah. I always tell everybody as an entrepreneur, I sleep like a baby still after 15 years. I wake up every 2 hours crying, or either that or I'm hungry all the time. So a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm really excited because our topic today is very near and dear to both of us.
Hmm.
And our topic for today is Givers Gain goes beyond business. Now, here
Absolutely.
in BNI San Diego, we have a big focus on nonprofits, right? Giving back to the community. As business owners, we gain a lot from our community, but we also want to make sure that we're giving back to our community. So right now, we have a goal that every one of our chapters has a nonprofit in it. So I'm excited
Yeah.
about our conversation today with regards to Givers Gain goes beyond business. When we're looking at here's the start question, right? Why is community involvement crucial for local business owners?
Yeah, excellent question. So it goes back to BNI's slogan. Our whole philosophy is givers gain, right? And I remember when James and I started our business almost 15 years ago, we didn't have anything. I mean, I think I've told you this before, Ed, we had less than $5,000 between the two of us. We lived in a 2-bedroom trailer house, two pre-teenage girls, which would not recommend at the same time. And we had this newborn baby. And we
A lot
just
going on.
yeah, it was a lot. And we'd quit these jobs where the deposit fairy came the 1st and 15th of the month and it just showed up. And we became entrepreneurs. And so what we found is we hustled, we joined BNI, we got a lot of business, things were great. But had it not been for the community supporting us, we would not
Mm,
be where we're at today, 15 years later. So I've always given up, I believe by the philosophy, givers gain, give me business, I give you business in return. But what about giving back to our community? And
yeah.
as a business owner, it's crucial that we give back to our community in some form or fashion. It gets you established in the community and goes back to my favorite core value in BNI. It builds relationships. You never know when you're giving back. And I never want you to give back and thinking that you need something in return. We give back because it's what we do, right? We never expect it in return. My grandmother always said, do things in kindness, but never expect the kindness to come back to you. It's
Mm.
great when it does, but never expect it. And so getting involved in the community, you're creating that brand and you never know who's out there in the community.
Well, and there are so many needs out there that you can give in a ton of different ways,
Right.
whether it's monetary, your time, actual products or services. I mean, there are so many different ways to show up and give, and that's what I love about our key core value, Givers Gain. It really is about not looking at what you get in return. It just so happens you always get return.
It
And
comes
and
back. Like,
it's not necessarily in dollars, right? It's
right.
peace of mind, it's satisfaction, it's being able to build your community.
Right.
No,
Absolutely. And and that segues into another thing is when we're giving, you never want to assume that somebody needs something. So nonprofit or a service organization, a school. I am a big supporter of the BNI Foundation and Business
yeah,
Voices. And the first mistake that I made, I love this. It was founded by Dr. Ivan Meisner and our beloved Beth Meisner in 1998. And I love what they do because it talks about schools and education. Well, we were getting ready to do a big event here in Austin with the school. And I assumed, which was the first mistake, the school needs school supplies, right? Um, So we were getting ready. It's like, I'm going to get all these chapters involved. We're going to do school supplies. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to fill a bus up with school supplies. Well, the school district came back and said, we love your energy and your enthusiasm, but what we really need is socks and underwear.
Well, who would have thought?
Right. And
Because
when
as
I
you said,
started,
you think that a school, what their needs are
right.
school supplies.
Absolutely. So it goes back to what we teach in BNI 101 is you need to add, just like we ask for business. And I say that with a K. I did say ask with a K. Um, we need to ask our community before we get involved, what do you need?
Mm.
Because not that a school would ever turn down school supplies, but they needed socks and underwear because children were coming to school wearing the same pairs of socks and underwear all week. And you think about that. I joke with my 15-year-old, like he thinks the laundry fairy just shows up and he has clean socks and underwear,
I
right?
have some of those, yes.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily work that way for a lot of children. And you think about that. If you like, I change my socks sometimes twice a day, and things that I take for granted, my kids take for granted, other kids don't that. So how's that
Mm.
affected mentally? You know, there's a story here in Killeen, Texas. There was a set of brothers. They were in trouble with the truancy officer because of attendance in the school. Well, when we started looking at what's going on, this set of teenage boys had one pair of shoes between the two of them, and they
Wow.
were taking turns wearing shoes to school. And so that's a need. And so I cannot emphasize that enough. I love the energy that a lot of people have, but always ask and say, what does the community need?
You know, and that brings up a good point, right? We assume, and like you said, using that
Mhm.
word, we assume we know what the needs are, whether it's for a school or a church or whatever the organization that we're giving back to, we assume what they need, when in reality, what we need to be able to do is do that very thing.
Yeah,
Ask them, what, you know what? We want to come alongside of you. We want to be able to support your organization. How can we best do that? How can we
yeah.
come alongside you to support your needs and what the needs of the community are with the individuals that you're serving?
Yeah. And I encourage you, whether it's asking for business, I mean, just never assume. I mean, back, and when in the days member success program, we would teach, always ask for the business. If you're not asking for it, people are going to assume that you do this when you don't. And so I always say that's 101. Just always ask. Don't be afraid to ask. And
So
and then make it happen.
yeah. So again, we have a real push for again, community involvement, getting a nonprofit in every one of our chapters. But for those BNI members that are listening, and even other professionals that are not necessarily in BNI at the moment, when we bring in a nonprofit into the chapter, what are the advantages of having a nonprofit in a chapter?
Oh my gosh. I love our nonprofits that we have in our chapters. Is we get to help them. And it's not necessarily monetary, like you said. I've surveyed a lot of nonprofits and did exactly what we said. What is your number one ask that you need? Of course, they're never going to turn down money, but a lot of them need volunteers. They need mentorship. I was reading a study the other day that did you know that here in Texas, the trades industry is down 30%.
Oh, wow.
Um, and that's things we need. And so there's an opportunity there to mentor a nonprofit through their nonprofit. Maybe it's through Habitat for Humanity. And, how great would it be to partner the handyman or the contractor with Habitat for Humanity and then get some younger mentors and or some younger kiddos in there to help mentor them, maybe get them in the trades industry. But for us to support nonprofits through BNI is amazing because, yes, of course, we can write a check. But what else do they need? Here in Killeen, Texas, we have our nonprofit and my former chapter that I started out with. The community theater is the nonprofit
Oh,
there.
wow.
And I would have never thought that. I'm like, oh, yeah, they are a nonprofit. But how great is it that we can help sponsor their events? We can volunteer at the door because that's the things they need. They
Mm.
need volunteers to help with parking. And people recognize, we always say we have this reticular activator in our
Yeah.
brain. People start recognizing things, right? And like, oh wow, I see Becky everywhere. I see Ed everywhere. Oh, I saw him at the theater parking cars.
Mm.
Well, if he's willing to park cars, I bet he's going to be take care of me as in business. And so, um, for a nonprofit in BNI, I tell you, it's amazing because you're also going to build relationships. And there's several stories of nonprofits meeting the right person that they needed. Maybe it's for that non-monetary donation that they needed, or maybe it's for that mentorship. But there's so many stories out there where BNI has helped nonprofits.
Well, and I love that element of mentorship, like you talked about. We have a chapter just within the last week. One of our chapters has a Boys and Girls Club as their nonprofit. And I was talking to some of the leadership, and they were mentioning they just did an event where half the chapter volunteered time to work with some of these kids. And you want to talk about kids needing, especially in this day and age, needing positive role models that are willing to come alongside them. And whether it's talking to them about life or even business, right? Because some of these kids are getting ready to come out of high school and go into the business world. And to be able to have some of these professionals come in and come alongside these kids to be able to share their experiences both on the highs and the lows
Right.
is incredible. And to see their eyes as these professionals that are very successful come in and are willing to take time out to mentor them, to sit with them, to talk with them, to play basketball with them, whatever it is, that volunteer mentor time is huge and it's really
Absolutely.
needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, that is a giver's gain in action. It's I'm giving back, and it's through mentorship. And like I said, you don't necessarily have to write a check. Hey, come right along with me. Come to my office and let me show you that, I'm here, as a business owner, I still scrub the toilets. Like, this is the reality here. I take the trash out, do all the
That's
things.
it.
And so it's not all like you get to see the highs, but let me show you some of the lows too, that we have. So I love the mentoring of it.
So what are some common challenges businesses face when trying to get involved in the community?
I think, just my opinion only, it's trying to find the right organization to be involved in. And in BNI, and I'm going to get this mixed up, but we talk about people, passion, process, right? The
Yes.
three P's. And I always say, let's start with our passion first. What is your passion? I tell every small business owner that says, hey, I want to get involved. Well, first of all, start slow,
Mm.
because we don't want to get you so overwhelmed that you're like, I don't have time to do anything. I'm guilty of that. I get so overwhelmed. All I want to do is go take a nap. But find out, what is your passion?
Yeah.
And excuse me, mine, for example, is education and children, which follows in line with the BNI Foundation and Business Voices. To quote Beth Meisner, she said, children are 20% of our population, but 100% of our future.
Whoa, that's a great quote. Can you
And I
repeat that
truly
again?
believe it's children.
It's so powerful. Let's
Yeah,
repeat that one again.
yeah. Now I'll say it louder for those in the back. Children are 20% of our population, but 100% of our future.
Mm.
And so for me, my passion is education. I come from a family of educators, more specifically the trades industry, because my dad was a carpentry teacher. My mom is still teaching home economics after 40 years. She told me the other day it's not called home economics anymore. I don't know what it's called, but it's not called. But I witnessed them single-handedly, as parents of 4 children teaching in Oklahoma. They're not making a lot of money, but I would see them take money out of our family budget to go buy supplies for their
Mm.
classroom. And I saw my dad one winter, he drove the school bus to help make ends meet. And in Oklahoma, our winters were cold. We didn't have a lot of snow, but we had ice and it was cold. And there was one particular student that rode our school bus, and my dad bought him a jacket one year, a coat, because he was cold. He was sitting at the stop and he didn't have that. And so that really reminds me of my parents giving back. And
Mm.
so my passion is I want to be able to give back. And so meeting Beth Meisner 15, 16 years ago really gave me the avenue through Business Voices and the foundation to give back. So my passion is education and children, but your passion may not be education and children. It may be, hey, I want to support our veterans. I want to support our community theater. But find that passion and then find the organizations that support that passion. Then that's the people part of it. So you got your passion, find the people, find your tribe that's going to get on board with you and help you. And then the process comes in place. Partnering with maybe an organization such as BNI Foundation, Business Voices, Rotary Clubs, Lions Club, they've already got the process. Most of the time, they just need the people with the passion to help them. And I think that's the biggest struggle, Ed, is finding out what your passion is and not getting so overwhelmed.
Well, and I think it's really easy. I think a lot of nonprofits get a lot of people that because it feels good, right? They're able to donate their money,
Hmm.
but donating time oftentimes is even needed more in certain situations and in certain organizations than a monetary donation. You think about the ability to for a business owner, particularly a newer business owner, or if a business owner is going through some financial struggles, they're looking at the chapter that may have a nonprofit in it, and they're going, I don't have extra money at the moment to donate to be able to support this new nonprofit, and they go, oh man, I'm not able to support them. That's not the case. You're
Mm-mm.
again going back to that time element. You can donate time. Something that all of us can donate very easily if we can focus on the needs. And again, asking the nonprofit, what are the needs? What are the ways that we can support you? Yes, there's always going to be a monetary need. That's, I think,
Right.
across the board, every nonprofit, there's always going to be a monetary need.
Yeah.
But there's that time spent that is so crucial that they need as well.
Right. I always say, like, I've never met a nonprofit that has turned a check down from me.
Yes.
And then also working, the struggle is that time management. Where can I find that extra
Mm,
hour in a day and make the most impact? If you say, okay, I have 40 hours in this work week, which most business owners have a 60 to 80 hour work
60 to
week.
80, yeah.
Yeah. Finding that 1 hour sometimes is hard. But with time management and the right people and support system, and again, this is where the process comes in place, partnering with the right organization that will make the most use of your time. Nothing will infuriate my husband more if we go to a volunteer event and there's nothing for him to do. Like, he's like, why am I here? What's my purpose? But if we go to the food care center here to restock shelves, we spend less than 30 minutes restocking shelves that feed over 300 families a day.
Mm,
To me, that's a big impact. You mean to tell me I can spend
huge.
30 minutes to restock shelves to feed 300 families the next day? Absolutely. Sign me up for that. And I
Wow.
only have to do it once a month. I don't have, I say that I get to do it once a month. I
Yeah,
don't have to do it. I get to do it. To me, that's a big impact. And so, yeah, I'll do that. Sign me up for that any day.
I love it. And there again, as we begin to close out our time together, there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of opportunities in various organizations, whether it's a beach cleanup, let's say that a chapter or a group of people are particularly here in San Diego, because we're surrounded, we've got beaches everywhere. But maybe it's just even going to the point of doing a beach cleanup or a park cleanup, or bringing some of the beautification back to your local areas. And let's say you don't have a nonprofit yet in your chapter. What are some ways, as we begin to close out, what are some thoughts from all that you've done, that if a chapter doesn't have a nonprofit yet, even though they're looking for one, what are some other ways that they can give back to their local community?
I would say start with the asking again. Find out what's going on. Social media is a great resource. See what events are going on in the community and say, okay, well, the downtown Clean Merchant Center has this going on. Let me go see what's going on down there. Um, I I'm always talking about business and BNI and Rotary and Lions Club, all the things. There's always a need, Ed. I just turned 46 and I've seen a need from the day I was born. There's always a need in your community. I would love to see a day where there is no child that is hungry, no child goes to school without clean socks and underwear, but that need's always going to be there.
Mhm.
And I would say just get out in the community, get involved in some form or fashion, get your team involved at work.
Ooh.
Again, don't assume that they're going to get so fired up like I do about education. Like I said, maybe their passion is helping military families relocate in the community, get them grounded. Um, but find out what that need is and get involved and just do it. To quote Nike, just do it. It's going to be so rewarding in the end.
Well, and all of that, if you have for those business owners, don't just go yourself, take your kids with you. If you have
Yeah,
kids,
yeah,
what a better way to get them started in that philanthropic, developing that philanthropic heart, than getting them started when they're young, to come alongside and support. and they get to understand how their time and their efforts can impact their local community,
Yeah.
even from a young age.
Yeah. And then they start associating you and the community and all the things you do. I've taken my 15-year-old ever since he was born. I've taken him to food care centers, food drives, everything with me. And now they have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and it took me a whole 20 minutes before I mentioned her. I just want to know that may be a record, Ed. I take her to things with me. I take her to Rotary meetings with me. And the other day I was dropping my son off at school and she was with me. And Rotary had put a literacy library and a bench out in front of my son's school. And she looked over the bench. She said, "Look, Mimi, that's you."
Oh.
And so she has branded me with Rotary. And think about the impact if somebody brands you as a business owner with an organization and they say, "Oh, Ed, you're part of Rotary and you help build this park." Or doesn't your Rotary Club, don't you do that cleanup on the beach? I think I want to do business with you because I like clean beaches. So
Wow, I would love for all of our chapters to be associated with that, what you just described, right? This
yeah,
BNI organization, this BNI chapter, this professional, this business person, they're givers. They show up, they help, they're there to support, always on the front line, willing to give back.
yeah, it's recognition and branding. And so I love it. I could talk about this. I know we're almost out of time, but I could talk about this all day long.
Well, we may need to do another one in the near future
I would
on
love it.
some of the different areas that we've been able to support our local communities. Becky, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us and talk about something that's both very near and dear to both of us on the Giver's Gain side of things and giving back to our community, particularly with our BNI Foundation. And I know that in Austin, Texas, and here in San Diego, we're always looking for opportunities to give back. So
Yeah.
for our members, for our listeners, make sure you take the time to give back to your local community. There's a lot of opportunities. Becky, again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ed, for having me. Always a pleasure.
And for our listeners, we look forward to having you back next week with us as we have another amazing guest. Again, always take the time to interact with your community, find out what the needs are, and then surround yourself, or if it's not just you, invite people into the process of being able to give back to the community. It's a win-win for everyone, as a professional, as an individual, as a child. Anytime we're able to give back to our local community, it is worth it. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
This episode of the BNI San Diego podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.